We're live, Grandma Wood.
Yeah.
We're live.
He's like, yeah.
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 Oh, wait, where's my jacket? Oh, my Lord. Hold on.
He always does this. It's funny.
Gives me the thanks for dressing up number, and then he's just got a shirt with a zipper on it.
God, it's going to hide my belly, too, so it's...
Oh, that's funny.
Woo, they're pouring in fast today. All right. We're here.
We are.
Let's
At Seize the Means Studios.
let's get this show started. Welcome to the Convo Couch, ladies and gentlemen. I am Pasta Jardula.
And I am Fiorella.
So we have a special guest in the house.
We do. He's awesome.
Yes, he's great. He's one of our favorites. He helped us out in the beginning to get the show going. He came on the show. He's a guy who had a really big inspiration. Once again, I like to put inspirations on our show. Yesterday, we had Lauren Steiner on, who was an inspiration with the work she does as a journalist, going out there and informing. This gentleman, I got to watch him, and the very first show I watched him, he kind of poured his heart out and just really had this everlasting impression. And why he does what he does is the reason why we have him in here. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to introduce and welcome back Graham Elwood to the Convo Couch.
Thanks for having you guys. What? That was a horrible sentence. Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, it's
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. And I was literally just reading. You wrote me a letter, Pasta.
Yes, I did.
When you sent me, you gave me a shirt with the Silver Surfer on it, and you wrote this really heartfelt letter, and that letter is on my fridge. Which I keep all the letters I get from viewers of the Political Vigilante, because there's a lot of days where I'm bummed out, or I feel like, what the hell am I doing? Or it seems pretty dark or whatever. So letters like that keep me going. So thank you, man.
No doubt, man. And for all the audience people out there, what it was is I sent them a letter and a shirt of the Silver Surfer. And it was kind of cool because I went to the Jimmy Dore show, and it was the first Jimmy Dore show I was going to. So Ron was like, who is this guy? Excuse me. And what's going on? And I had a bag, and it had a little gift bag, and I was like, hey, can you give this to Graham? And he's like, well, Graham's not here, but I'll just kind of hold on to it. And I didn't know you would get it or you had gotten it. I was like, oh, well, whatever. And the very next show I went to, and fam, you came to that show, and I didn't know you were in the house. And he's like, coming to the stage, Graham Elwood. And here comes Graham Elwood on the stage with the shirt I bought him. And I know he'd gotten the letter, and it was from the Silver Surfer. And I explained to people that when I first saw you, you were explaining why you do what you do. And it was so heartfelt because it's one of the biggest issues for me. I'm an anti-war guy. I spent a little time in the military myself. And it is my #1 issue is the fact that we're just going around this whole planet bombing people left and right. But here was a guy who looked into troops' eyes, who spoke to them on your Afghanistan tour. And when you were explaining that to me, and you were explaining why you do what you do, it was like you were the Silver Surfer to me. And that moment when he had a choice, either save the world and sacrifice himself or go on with his daily life. And that's why I sent you that letter, to say thank you for being our Silver Surfer and putting yourself out there.
Well, thanks.
And I want to piggyback on that and start the show and talking about this some more, because we've gone through a whole cycle of doing this, a whole year of doing this. We've been politically active and whatnot. It seems that the world is still, especially the United States and its citizens, are still desensitized to war. Why is that, Graham?
Well, I think the ruling class has done a fantastic job of keeping it away from us. And, America doesn't want to see how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
America doesn't want to know, man. They just want to have everything all nice and pretty and sweet. They don't want to know, none of it. The slave labor that makes diamonds. You pick something.
Yeah.
America doesn't want to know. And when the media, 95% of all media is owned by 5 major multinational conglomerates, and watch who's buying ad time on any of the channels. When people, people on the left, I'm a big Rachel Maddow fan. I say, okay, watch who's buying ad time. Boeing, the military, the oil, big pharma. That's who's buying that's who's buying ad time on MSNBC, just like Fox, just like ABC, just like all of them. So the war machine has spent a lot of money not desensitizing us, because we're not seeing it. You know, when Rachel Maddow was crying about families getting separated at the border, well, that's a good thing to cry about. That's awful what Trump is doing. I was like, where's the video footage of her crying at the 120 kids that die every day in Yemen? Oh, right. They don't show that on MSNBC or any of the major networks. So no one wants to talk about it. And this was never more evident to me than when I went over in 2004 for my first comedy tour in Afghanistan. I went in 04, 06, 07, and I went to Iraq 07, 08, and 2011. And I went to a standalone tour of Kuwait in 2012, right? So when I went to Afghanistan in 2004, the Iraq war was in full swing. Mm-hmm. People didn't know back then we had troops in Afghanistan. I would tell people, like, they're like, wow, where you been? I was like, oh man, I did a comedy tour through Afghanistan. And I would hear these two things. We still got troops there?
Yeah.
In 2004?
Yeah.
And I'd say, yeah. Or they go, wow, man, that's so great you went to Iraq. And I'd go, no. I was in Afghanistan. They are two different countries. There's two different wars. Literally, Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom are two different military campaigns.
Yeah.
And people were like, huh? What? Most Americans don't know we're still in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
17 years later. It would be like if in 1958 we were still fighting the Germans.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Can you imagine that?
No, I can't.
So it's like the mainstream media is not sitting there screaming, why have we've spent $5 to $9 trillion on the global war on terror for 17 years. Why are we still fighting it? Because they're bought and paid for by them.
Yeah.
If Rachel Maddow starts screaming that shit, she's off the air.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
like a Dylan Radigan, like a Don
all those guys that
Yeah.
spoke out, they're gone, man. They were
Hedges
gone, yanked, and so that's who's controlling the narrative.
Yeah, and I love this whole attack on the media now with the Acosta shit, and yet all these other journalists who brought us front and center to this war are gone. Yeah.
Yeah, where why the mainstream media? Why aren't they just? They should be 24/7 talking about Julian Assange because
100%.
Because they could come out if they can get him, they could get anyone. They could get Sean Hannity, they could get Rachel Maddow, they could get any of those guys.
Yeah.
But they're not. Because Julian Assange again threatens the powerful.
Yeah.
The real power.
The real power. The media, used to be the watchdog of power. And now they're the guard dog of it.
The lapdog, the guard dog, yeah. I mean, they just constantly push their narrative, whatnot, and it's so desensitized. And the thing that's really disgusting about this whole situation is that, you went over there, and I want to play a little clip.
Okay.
Because I still think people are too far separated. Years ago, if I had the funding, I wanted to do this movie called Mother's Milk. And I want to go around and talk to the mothers of soldiers that lost their lives and really try to connect the mothers of the world to try to humanize what's going on, because we're still so far separated from actually knowing and feeling what's going on. And you were over there, and I want to show that clip.
Well, before we show that clip, I want to say this real quick. You bring up the mother thing. Do you know that's what the original Mother's Day was? It was moms of, I believe, World War I. They had all lost their sons in World War I, and the original Mother's Day was a peace protest. It was an anti-war movement. Wow. The mothers of the world get together to say we don't want to watch our sons die in war.
Yeah.
World War I was called Wall Street's War.
Okay.
America didn't want to get involved in it.
Yeah.
And Woodrow Wilson contracted George Creel to come up with the Creel Commission to come up with a marketing campaign to sell World War I to the American public. Over there,
Nothing's
over
changed.
there.
Yeah.
That was a marketing tool.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. They sold it. They used radio. They used newspapers and magazines, the mainstream media of the time. And they used this new medium called film. And they made movies like, the Kaiser attacks and all this stuff like that to get America to go, we need to go get involved in this war.
Yeah. I think we're the ones who also...
And we've done it time and time again throughout the rest of history. So it should be no surprise to people that we will continue to do it until we fully stop the military-industrial complex.
Yep.
So.
And we need an anti-war movement.
100%.
Hardcore. And it's like, when I heard the women's movement is going to start to, the Women's March is going to start to make it an anti-war movement, or we need, there's no anti-war movement in this country right now. to go back to your initial question of why are people so desensitized, we're not even discussing it. And then when people on the left, they call themselves on the left, are like smearing somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, who's like, why are we going to Syria? I lost friends in the last bullshit regime change war. They didn't come home because she's an Iraq vet. And people on the left smear her as an Assad apologist.
Yeah.
I mean, Jimmy Dore's gotten into arguments with people who call themselves on the left and they're pro-war.
Yeah.
People who are pushing this Russia narrative. It's like, so you want World War III?
Yeah. Well, let me just say that Jimmy Dore narrative, too, we talked about this, too, in this household. I know Eric Zachary's on the line, and we love Eric Zachary. But when the left started smearing Jimmy Dore, even 2 weeks before the Francesca letter came out, that's when I had lost it. I was like, this is the most anti-war human on the planet right now. You know what I'm saying? And that's why it was important for me to bring you back in the studio. I'm like, these guys have talked to men and women who have lost their lives on lies of war. And it's so easy for you to smear this guy. To me, it's like that was the last line. It's because, okay, you're smearing the anti-war movement. You know what I'm saying? And I was just completely done with it. Can we show that clip, by the way? Because this is, you want to see the fear. I know my man over here.
20 minutes away from doing the show. It's going to go on right behind that bunker. It's about 5:35, and I was just talking to some guys in the middle, and they were saying that right around this time of day is when they start shooting the rockets. The Taliban or whomever, Al-Qaeda, will just randomly shoot rockets. And I'm fucking terrified. I'm scared out of my fucking mind. I'm glad I'm here and I want to entertain them, but I'll be fucking really happy when I'm home. There's a part of me that just wants to go home. I just want to go home. I've only been here a fucking day. But I gotta pull myself together and do the show. Let's go make them laugh.
I mean, I'm sorry I'm getting all teared up because, you know, I know you, Graham. I'm a friend of yours. And to hear your fear there, it really just, it shakes me to the fucking core, my man. And that you went over there and did that stuff, it's so beautiful. But the fear, and these people, these men, are children that we're sending off to fight on these lies.
I mean, you know, thanks for showing that clip. You know, that movie brings me back. I mean, that was a while ago, and the scary thing is that was shot 14 years ago, and we're still in war. That base is still there, Salerno.
Yeah,
the base is still there. And so that experience of going over there, I did 7 comedy tours in war zones, and then I used to talk about it a lot just in my act. I had a kind of a joke about it or whatever, about being scared, and so people would always come up to me after shows, and you know, that's why I'm so anti-war, because I saw so much stuff. I saw the whole machine in place, like young men and women. I mean, you know how many shows I did where some 19, 20-year-old would go, this is the first comedy show I've ever been to, is you coming to our fire base, you know? And when the recession hit in 2008, I did a tour in 2008, right after the recession. And then again, I went back there again in 2011. And so many were like, oh, this is my 3rd tour. I'm like, really? They're like, there's no jobs back home.
Yeah.
They gave me a $20,000. One guy said, I did for the cash. They give a $20,000 re-enlistment bonus. Where am I going to get that kind of money? Yeah. If I go back home, I'm working at Walmart for $9 an hour. Yeah. Like there's no. If I'm lucky,
if I'm
lucky. Yeah. Like and these guys. I mean, I don't know how many 28, 29-year-old, 30-year-olds were on their 3rd deployment. You know, there's like I know people too who grew up. You know, if you were a senior in high school when 9/11 hit, you went to the recruiter. And if I would have been 17, 18 years old when 9/11 happened, I probably would have joined. Even though I came from a very liberal anti-war family, I might have. I don't know. Yeah. After 9/11. Yeah. And then I go over there and I see, you know, it's an all volunteer military. And everyone's, you know, fighting for noble reasons for the most part. We were attacked on 9/11. We need to do something about it. It's a very noble, you know, whatever you want to say about 9/11. It was whatever your view on that is, that was the main attitude.
Yeah.
And, you know, we got to do something about it. Okay, great. And, you know, we're America. We're going to get it done. And then, you know, I go over there and I see the Halliburton and KBR and those companies making all of this money. And then I'm seeing wounded soldiers, man. I mean, the second tour I went there in 2006 was Shematash. You know, we got in a firefight on a helicopter. And they took us into a hospital one day, and they were operating on a 13-year-old kid that had been hit with an IED. And this is also in Afghanistan. They were prepping a 9-year-old boy because he had shrapnel in his head from playing in a minefield. I have 6 nieces and nephews. They've never had to play in a minefield.
Yeah.
I fed kids through razor wire. And this is all in the film, you know, and then the number of wounded soldiers I've met, I can't even count.
Yeah.
You know, because when we would get to the bases and when we were in Iraq, they give us a tour of the base. We go to the medical tent, and there was always somebody wounded to talk to. And then just the shows in the States. I did the Funny Bone in Columbus, Ohio. And again, I would joke in my act about going over there, and, you know, and this guy, you know, left a note for the wait staff after the show. He's like, "Thank you so much. We had to leave early because our son died in Iraq, and it was just too hard for my wife, but we didn't want you to feel bad that we left because you were talking. Thank you so much." They're thanking me.
Yeah.
Their son died over there, and they're thanking me.
Yeah.
In the same comedy club, that same week of doing shows, I'm in the part of my act, you know, I went overseas, and people start clapping for me. I go, "Don't clap for me. If there's any vets or active duty in the audience, give them a round of applause." One guy active duty, one guy, you know, he yelled, "Hoorah," you know, and I said, I go, "Where were you?" He goes, "Yeah, I was stationed." He told me whatever base he was stationed at. And I said, "Are you still in?" He holds up his hook and goes, "Nope." I mean, he's being funny,
But he's got
a prosthetic hand. For what, man?
For what?
You know, and it's like, a woman came up to me at the Hollywood Improv. "Hey, my brother died over there." A guy came up to me in Fort Worth, Texas. "Hey, man, thanks for going up over there. I really appreciate it." Lifts up his pant leg, ding, 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 taps his prosthetic leg, his metal leg.
Yeah.
I mean, I met a guy at the Naval Hospital this is probably 5 or 6 Thanksgivings ago, who I kept in touch with, and he had shrapnel in his leg, and he wanted to get his leg removed because it was too much pain. And then I hear 22 vets a day kill themselves.
Yeah.
And you're going to come back to me and tell me you want more war?
Yeah.
Sorry.
The 22 for 22 do 22 push-ups a day for 22 days to honor the 22 veterans that kill themselves every day. Due to PTSD. It's
So when I see people on the left praying for war, you know, war, we got to go, and they want to go, we got to go bomb Russia because they stole our election. What?
Yeah.
Well, then we need to bomb the DNC headquarters, I guess, too, because they stole the primary. Like, what do you? And I always want to say to the people out there, you know, the Francescas or whatever, I go, "Have you ever seen war up close?"
Yeah.
I don't know what real combat's like, and I will never know, but I've gotten close enough to it.
Yeah.
I always say it's like being on I was like on the sidelines of an NFL game. If you're on the sidelines of an NFL game, you would hear and see things that you're not going to hear on TV or in the stands.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's what I've seen enough. I was on an aircraft we got diverted flying home in Iraq. I forgot to tell you this, where we had to go to Basra, I think, and pick up a flag draped coffin. You ever flown with a dead GI on an aircraft? I have. That's what I want to ask anyone on the left who's like, "Oh, we need to go to war." Yeah. Really? Really? Have you done that? Have you sat there and just cried? I was on a plane with Scott Kennedy, who went over there 50 some times. He's a comic. He passed away. And a bunch of golfers. It was Thanksgiving of 2007. And we're flying back, and they diverted us to pick up a fallen soldier So we had to sit there with a flag draped coffin, man. That was delivered. And we're just sitting there all crying because their family just got the worst news.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm sorry, man. After $5 trillion in 17 years, terrorism should be done. We should have fixed it. We haven't.
I think it's gotten worse, too. You have a clip. Well, the article, Afghanistan, just yesterday, guess what? More bombing. So the fight for truth and justice is not really progressing whatsoever. And more to the news, we also have you talk about people on the left, and we talk about it all the time. Democrats, July 2008. 2018. We've been talking about who should be the next Speaker of the House, but guess what? Miss Nancy Pelosi signed on with the Democrats to fund the military-industrial complex to the T. Also, your boy Adam Schiff, that we love to talk, is right next door to us. James Clyburn, who supported the Clintons over Bernie Sanders, who was the anti-war candidate.
Dude, Elizabeth Warren, Tim Kaine, and 3 other Democrats in October of 17 signed over Trump to get an extra $80 billion for the war budget.
He didn't even ask for it.
He didn't need it. Yeah. They just decided to give him an extra $80 billion.
Yeah, just in case you're out there, you're getting a few extra
bucks
in your
walking
pocket,
around money.
Some little spending cash and whatnot.
It's insane.
So we've been talking about the whole speaker thing, and I love your insight on the war and stuff. But everybody's been talking, people on the left, we've been arguing with this whole argument about Nancy Pelosi. You want to elaborate a little bit more about the argument about people on the left before we show this video?
The argument is that now we have progressives rationalizing Nancy Pelosi as a good option for speaker because anyone who is running is to her right, and we don't want a moderate in there, and that's the excuse. However, they're completely ignoring her past and that she's never stood for progressive and anti-war legislation. Just today, it came out though that the new Congress is pushing her towards stopping the funding for Yemen, which is good. But I think what we're missing here is that we need, as a people, to demand to be out there shouting, no, we don't want you as a speaker. We don't want you. You're not good enough. Your time's up. We need new leadership. And I think if some of these Congress people and then some of the people on the ground are just going to give up and say, okay, well, I don't want a Republican or a more moderate as a speaker without getting anything in return, it's ridiculous. People are not only dying abroad in war, people are dying because they don't have health care. And Medicare for all is the one issue that we should all be pushing forward. And it just seems like they're just like, oh, well, it's that whole, lesser of two evils mentality that we're still stuck in. And they're rationalizing voting for or endorsing or supporting someone like Nancy Pelosi just because they're afraid that they're going to get Steny Hoyer. And just what's your take on that?
Well, she's battle tested. I keep hearing that.
She's a strong woman.
Oh, yeah, she's bold.
She's bold.
She's bold when? And taking the millions of dollars from the healthcare industry?
No, she's strong on her platitudes, thank you.
Oh, yeah, it's just like, I'm so tired of that.
Our values unite us.
Oh, yeah. Our platitudes unite us. And then if you're critical of her, oh, you must hate women or you're ageist or whatever. And it's like, no, she is the typical corporate Democrat. Mm-hmm. Regardless of her age or gender, she takes corporate money. She's against Medicare for all because the healthcare industry, I just read an article. I did a story on it for Political Vigilante. The top 10 Democrats that have gotten money from the healthcare industry are all in Congress because Congress went, oh, well, wait a minute. We got to hedge our bets, even though it's a Republican Senate. If we have, and everyone's screaming this Medicare for all, and some Medicare for all candidates have been elected, Ocasio-Cortez and the like, So we got to double down on money for get these healthcare Democrats in line. They've millions of dollars they've given.
Well, to me, it's not the Democrats that are the issue. It's the corporate Democrats. Right. And there's a lot more corporatist Democrats than there are corporatist Republicans because there is a little niche of libertarians on the right that holds some power. So I've come up with a video that I saw years ago, and I've been talking about this. And I said this to fam, I say it all the time. Let's ditch the neoliberals. We don't need to make an alliance with it. This is something you said a long time ago. Let's try to talk to people on the left to convince them. Forget about the right. Let's try to talk.
You mean
I think it's, what's that?
The right? Talk to people on the left?
No, you said let's talk to people on the left. Way back in the days on a Political Vigilante. This is after 2016. This was the plan coming out of the break the huddle, let's go. Let's try to form some unity on the left. But I've come to the conclusion that the left's not going to change.
Not the neoliberals who want war and think Hillary lost because of misogyny versus her corporate warmongering. I mean,
Well, I mean, here's to me the alliance, and I know some people might think I'm crazy, but I got a little video, Judge Napolitano on Fox News, Fox Business. I know that's probably a lot of people's favorite out there, but not. But years ago, he had on Ralph Nader, and he had on Ron Paul to talk about where progressives and libertarians agree. And one of the number one issues they agree on? War. Progressives are compassionate. We don't want to have war because we're compassionate. We love people. We don't want to see bombs dropped on children. We don't want to see our troops killed. Libertarians, they're fiscally against war. Now, hey, they don't want to spend the money on war. They don't want to deal with the blowback, whatever. I don't care about their cause. But guess what? There's an alliance there. Let's start off with this video with Judge Napolitano. Take a look at this, Graham. We'll talk about this. We'll break this down little by little. But this is interesting. Why can't we have this coalition? Does it have to be left on left? Why not left on right? Why don't we put Rand Paul up to be the Speaker of the House? Give it a shot. Just as long as you have volume so she can hear it.
Tonight on Freedom Watch, a very special event. Libertarian and Tea Party hero Ron Paul and icon of the left Ralph Nader. Think they couldn't disagree? Think again. Congressman Paul, Mr. Nader are with us now in a rare interview. Congressman Paul is the author of End the Fed. Ralph Nader is the author of Only the Super Rich Can Save Us. Gentlemen, welcome to Freedom Watch.
Thank you.
Ralph, to you first. You have recently said that Congressman Paul and the Tea Party Republicans are different than the other Republicans in the Congress. What do you mean by that?
To the extent that they are genuine libertarian conservatives and not corporatists, corporatists believe in corporate government, they are great allies with many liberals and progressives to challenge the bloated, wasteful military budget, to challenge undeclared wars overseas, to challenge hundreds of billions of dollars in corporate welfare, handouts, giveaways, bailouts, to challenge the invasiveness of our civil liberties and civil rights by the notorious Patriot Act, to challenge the sovereignty shredding, job destroying NAFTA and World Trade Organization agreements, and also to the first victory will be a powerful whistleblower bill that libertarian conservatives and liberals and progressives in the Congress almost got through last year to let government.
What do you think so far, though? I mean, come on, guys. Well, I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but right now my ears are like pinning up. Like, wait, there's Republicans out there that those three issues right there, right? Mm-hmm. What do you think so far?
I think it's great, and I think it's probably a good point. Like you say, let's try to unify the left, but I see so many neoliberals that just.
They'll even criticize us for showing this right now.
Oh, we're Fox apologists.
Yeah. Yes, we're gonna get it.
Yeah. They act just as ridiculous as the diehard Trumpers.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. There's a lot of people that voted for Trump. They're like, the guy's a jackass. I'm a Reagan Republican, but he was the lesser of two evils, right? Those people you should try to talk to.
100%.
Yeah, those people you should try to talk to. But I've seen the diehard Trumpers and the diehard Hillary people react the same crazy way.
Yeah,
right.
They won't hear any facts. And you say you call out Trump for he didn't drain the swamp. He put a bunch of corporate people in there. He gave a $1.5 trillion money into the deficit. That's not fiscally conservative. Fuck you, libtard snowflake, right? And then you go, Hillary's for banking and for war, and you sexist burn bro. They won't listen to any facts.
Yeah.
You need to connect with these people. There needs to a coalition. If we're in agreement that we're spending too much money on war, I'll hear what you got to say, man.
Yeah. I mean, there's also a video from the Koch brothers I kind of pointed out, too, where the Koch brothers even say, Charles Koch, I think he says, I hate the tax code. Trump is not a libertarian in the sense of mind where he's going to take all the loopholes, all the subsidies out of the tax code. He's not doing it. Now, the libertarians are for a flat tax. We can argue that. But they're not for loopholes. They're not for subsidies, which is where a lot of companies and corporations end up paying zero taxes because they're getting one hand back as they put forth another. Let's continue with the video.
Employees ethically blow the whistle on corporate rapaciousness and contracts and government misdeeds. Just think of that agenda for a dynamic political force.
All right, Ralph, I mean, you have given enough topics there for us to talk for 2 hours. We only have about 10 minutes. And you're both friends of mine, and we both have chatted about these issues. But Congressman Paul, almost everything that Ralph Nader just said, you could have said, and you have said. Is this a coalition of the leading libertarian in the Congress and one of the leading progressives in American culture today?
Well, you know, I believe in coalitions. You know, they always talk about we need more bipartisanship, and I say we have too much bipartisanship because the bipartisanship here in Washington endorses corporatism, which Ralph and I disapprove of. But, you know, coalitions are different. Ralph and I do have some disagreements, but that list he just made, I agree with him on that. So I think we should come together and work together, and I think we can. Matter of fact, we had a little project during the last campaign where I got progressives and libertarians and conservatives together, and we actually had an agreement that we shouldn't be having deficit financing. We didn't agree on where to spend and who to tax and all that, but we had an agreement that, you know, these runaway deficits are horrible for us. And of course, we even mentioned the Fed, and we got an agreement. So I think there's a lot of room for progressives and libertarian conservatives to work together on.
Ralph, Congressman Paul, of course, has been the leading member of Congress on auditing the Fed and on ending the Fed. You probably support him on both of those, don't you?
Well, the Fed is completely out of control. It's not under any legal controls that Congress can really enforce. I mean, look at the bailouts over the weekend. Last year and a half, a little over a year ago, on Citigroup, $350 billion bailout in secret.
Obama, by the way.
The banks fund the Fed. It doesn't go through the congressional appropriations process as it should under our Constitution. It needs an audit, and I think Congressman Paul is teaming up with hyper-progressive Senator Sanders to bring the Fed into openness and greater accountability.
Right,
so that's another political dynamic.
Fee. Your eyes lit up like a Christmas tree when he talked about the corporatism, and we talked about this before.
Yeah.
Both progressives and libertarians hate the Fed.
Yeah, the bipartisanship that Nancy Pelosi speaks of, that many of the corporatist Democrats speak of, literally means that they're both Republicans and Democrats are going to push for corporate legislation that sinks the people and helps the elite. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
There's the unity there for them.
Well, that's great. And Ron probably brings up a great point. Bipartisan means we're all getting screwed by the 1%. That's what bipartisan means. Coalition is like, I love what they said. And we can agree on these handful of things and also agree to disagree on some other things.
Yeah.
But like right on. Like the problem we have in this country, what makes a good democracy is debate. Yeah. Discussion, an open, transparent debate, multiple parties having discussions and debates and finding out what's best for everybody. And we're not going to be able to please 330 million people, but what is the best for the direction of the country? That's what we don't have a democracy. Yeah. We have two corporate parties.
Yeah, which is actually one corporate party.
One corporate party.
Yeah.
That's
what I talk about unity, and we talked about they're united on war. Yeah. They're united on war. The neoliberals and the neocons are united on war.
War, banking, they're united on banking.
Exactly.
They're united.
And that's the thing. And here's also the thing I want to point out, too. It's like when you talk about debate is necessary. But that's what the neoliberals have cut off at the throat with their identity politics. Yeah, they're all about identity politics, and therefore you cut the debate.
Let's call you a white supremacist sympathizer. Let's call you a racist simply because you will talk to the other side. You will talk to Republicans that, like you said, voted for Trump because Trump ran as a populist. Even though he obviously isn't, that's what he ran under. And people thought he was a lesser of evil to some degree because Hillary Clinton, we'd be at war with Syria, probably would be some sort of war with Russia. And we know that and we see that. But I think the immediacy of the neoliberal left jumping and accusing everybody that doesn't agree with their identity politics as a racist or as some sort of like white supremacist is a problem. It's the equal of the right-wing fascist part of the Republican Party calling everyone a libtard or just not even hearing what you have to say. Yeah. And that's where we get
generalizations, the lumping in. It's it just stops. It stops debate. It stops, discourse. And it's just terrible. But I got the best part is coming. You're going to love this here. Continue with this video here because Ron Paul will talk about where the easiest place to save money is. Take a look.
that can increase in force and power in Congress.
All right, Congressman Paul, since the last time we talked about this, there's been a change, and that is the new Congress has come in. The Republicans are numerically superior in the House, and as a result of this, you are chair of a subcommittee of the House, one of whose jobs is to monitor the Fed. Question, will you succeed in serving subpoenas on Ben Bernanke to show up and have a chat with you under oath and to bring his ledger sheets with him? And will he comply with those subpoenas? And if he does do that, can Ralph Nader sit in the front row?
Well, I'll tell you what, I've been doing some checking, and I've been informed that for the Federal Reserve Board Chairman and Secretary of Treasury and officials in the cabinet go to the full committee. So I will not have that authority, but I may be able to do somebody that is not the full chairman of the committee. But if he does, it'll have to come from the chairman of the committee. But that doesn't mean that we'll go lightly on digging up for this information, because Ralph is absolutely right on this thing. Actually, the Federal Reserve can have a bigger budget than the Congress. I mean, they can spend $3-4 trillion in a year, and then they don't want us to tell us. Now, one thing I did get a gentleman's agreement with on many members on the banking committee already is I made a suggestion. I said, why don't we ask the Fed what they're going to do if they're going to spend a certain amount of money, get approval from the Congress. If they plan to give $10 billion out, why should they do that without congressional approval? It's totally out of control. It was never meant to be, and it was never the founders' intention to have a system that we have today.
Last question on the Fed, and then I want to change subjects. Ralph, would progressives support a repeal of the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, stated differently, literally, legally ending the Fed?
Well, I can't speak for all of them, but clearly, in my judgment, the Fed should be whatever it does, should be a cabinet-level accountable institution. Right now, it's a private bank government inside the federal government, funded by fees from the banks and thumbing its nose at Congress. But its worst nightmare is Congressman Ron Paul, who now is head of the subcommittee overseeing the Fed. Watch for the fireworks.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about fireworks. Congressman Paul, if we ended our military ventures in Iraq and Afghanistan tomorrow, could that not provide us the substantial and deep budget cuts that we need to prevent further borrowing and perhaps to spend less than we actually take in tax dollars?
Absolutely. And I think it's the easiest place to cut. I mean, we as libertarians might not approve of some of these medical programs, but is that the place to start, or should it be overseas spending? And should we have a stronger national defense by bringing our troops home? And I say that is the place to go. We should cut from overseas and bring the troops home. And I think the world would be more at peace. I was complaining today, they had questions about China. I said, they're getting to be good capitalists. They work hard, they save money, and they buy up resources. What do? We send our troops out and say we're protecting our oil in the Middle East, and we're draining our resources. That does contribute significantly to the bankruptcy. All wars are fought with inflation, destruction of the money, which is the reason we have unemployment today.
Right there.
Wow.
Right? That's a Republican.
This is a couple years ago this came out?
This is a couple years ago. It only has 9,636 views. That's not enough. That's what I'm saying. It's like, this is, I mean, right there. That's a Republican. So if we had Rand Paul as the Speaker of the House and the whole Progressive Caucus, biggest caucus in Congress, 77 members, say we're going to agree on these 3 issues. We're going to audit the Fed and end all the tax codes and loopholes. We're going to stop the wars and bring it home. Okay, wouldn't that be great for America together?
Yeah.
I mean, is it naive to think that what they're doing in Italy, we can emulate here, have the right and left working together, different factions of it?
Really working together
Really
for
working
the
together.
people.
Yeah.
Those are movements for the people. That's the thing, and you brought this up earlier. You know, Trump ran on an anti-interventionist platform. You know, I mean, he said all these racist and sexist things that I didn't like at all. But you got to understand, a lot of people just like, they let that go. He can say his crazy stuff, whatever, because he was talking about bringing troops home. There's people who are a faction of Trump supporters who are burning their Make America Great Again hats because he's going into war. He said, he called out Obama. There's all these tweets. Tucker Carlson called him out. he called out Obama. Why are we in Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Why are we bombing Syria? Why are we doing this? Bring our troops home. He ran on that platform.
He did.
And that's what Ron Paul's talking about. And that's why a lot of people, you know, in districts that voted for Obama twice went to Trump.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they're like 8 years of this.
Yeah.
We had 8 years of this.
And also the financial
Yeah.
decline. Those people in Wisconsin that they went to talk to is kind of amazing. These are, you know, people of color in Wisconsin who said, I'm not going to vote for Obama again. And also, too, as we close out this segment, because I want to get on to the stuff that Fiorella went and reported, I just want to say the rest of this video, they do talk about a difference, and it is healthcare, where Paul wants to go completely in the free market when it comes to healthcare, and obviously, Ralph Nader wants to have a single pay. So there are differences.
Sure.
But if we're really about having this Congress get some legislation through, because anything that happens, if we go with Pelosi, nothing's getting through the legislature. I mean, you might get through the House, and ain't getting through the Senate.
Well, that's what she'll
and
do.
ain't getting through the White House.
Here's what Pelosi will do if she becomes Speaker. She'll do what the Democrats always do. She'll introduce stuff that keeps her base happy,
Moral
that she
victories.
knows the Senate's going to vote down.
Yeah.
That's what the Democrats do. When they had control, when Obama, they had the House and the Senate, and Obama was president, they could have passed so much shit, and they didn't.
Yeah.
Because then they lose their corporate benefactors. So I would like to see some real, and this is the thing that I tell people, when getting involved, you know, I'd never in my lifetime seen town hall meetings packed to the gills like we saw after the 2016 election.
Yeah.
More people are getting involved. People are, you know, 80% of the population wants Medicare for all on both party sides. So it's like these politicians are starting to wake up to the fact that if we don't listen, we're going to get voted out. And that's the thing that the Tea Party did correctly. There's some Tea Party stuff I didn't like or whatever, but their resolve, some of their tactics I didn't like, but their resolve in the sense that they went to Republicans and said, we're voting you out.
Yeah.
They didn't go after Democrats. They said, we're voting you out unless you have these things on our platform. And they threatened to walk at every Republican convention. We will walk.
Yeah.
And progressives need to play that kind of game.
They never played that same game that the tighten it right there from the thing, the bottom down below it. Yeah, that piece right there. Just turn it to your. Here, let me get it for you. Excuse me 1 second. Technical difficulties.
While they're adjusting that,
Okay.
that's the thing. They said, we're voting you out.
Yes. Eric Cantor, the whole thing, they threw him out. You know what I'm saying? Boehner quit because he couldn't control the Tea Party.
Yep.
The Tea Party was like, you know what I'm saying? The progressives have not done that. And Maria Estrada said this. I think she was on the line before. She says, it's not Donald Trump and the Republicans who are thwarting the progressives. It's the Democrats that are thwarting the progressives. And we need to realize that stuff, and a lot of people don't realize that stuff.
Yeah,
let's move on to the next part, because a byproduct of war and one of my other main issues. This is a great show today. Thank you for coming, because I get to talk about
awesome.
the two issues that move me the most. I'm anti-war, my number one issue. Number two, it's the migration issue, because I keep on yelling, Trump supporters, neoliberals or centrists, whatever you want to call them. What causes these problems? Why are so many people migrating over here? And the fam went down to meet some of these people at the border. And I talk about this all the time. These are overthrowing with a coup, supporting coups from the CIA and South and Central America, which turns their countries upside down, and now they're migrating. And a lot of these people migrated from Honduras.
Honduras, especially Honduras. I mean, thousands and thousands of migrants keep arriving in caravans, as we've all seen on the news. We've seen the caravans. We've seen people crossing with their children in their arms. And so I went to TJ with Jonathan here and with one of my other activist friends, and we went to the border, first of all, and once you cross the border, you'll see the barbed wiring. The moment you cross the border, you look back, there's no going back. You see the barbed wires, and now the military has brought in more of their cars. They brought in their more barbed wire to kind of keep this kind of military, like World War II looking facade on the outside. And so what we're seeing is a majority of these people are Central Americans.
Yeah.
The majority of these people are actually fleeing their countries because of violence that they're really not as aware of. When I started talking to many of these people, I started interviewing them. I asked them, why are you all coming, and are you aware of the politics that's happening in your country? They honestly had no idea. they said, oh well, our government's corrupt, and I'm being persecuted. One gentleman told me he was being persecuted. He was 21 years old, and he said he didn't care where he went, but he was going to stay in Mexico and take the asylum. So there are a lot of things that are being said right now in the media about the caravans, both in the left and the right, that these people, particularly on the right, are saying, why aren't they taking the political asylum Mexico is offering them? And there are some facts that I need to dispel today. The majority of these people that are coming in are actually taking the asylum Mexico is offering, because all they care about is finding some sort of solace, not feeling like they're going to get killed, that they're going to get shot, that their family members are going to get killed. They're just happy to have a tent to sleep in. And Jonathan has some of these pictures, and you'll see that there's an array of tents in the stadium. And they told me, I don't really care about where I go or where I stay. I feel at peace here because I know that I'm not being persecuted, that I know that I'm not being shot down. I just want a place to sleep that's quiet, and not be hearing, the bullets and the bombs and everything around me. And to me, that's very telling, because that's something as basic as it gets, to have a roof over your head where you're not being shot at constantly. And that also mirrors what we're doing in Afghanistan, in Yemen, and all throughout the Middle East as well. And there's also an interesting point that I wanted to point out. A lot of these people are coming to take American jobs. That's the other notion that we're constantly getting thrown on. Even people in Tijuana, we have some people that are Mexicans for Trump. They're actually more than that. They call themselves Nazis. They're Mexican Nazis. And they were protesting in Tijuana, talking basically the same talking points that Donald Trump talks about, but framing it so, we know what Mexicans look like, and we know what these Hondurans look like, what these Nicaraguans look like, what these Guatemalans look like. We don't want them here. They're going to take our job. Well, that's false, because the majority of these people coming in, some of them have degrees. I spoke to many people who had degrees in their country, and they are willing to give that up and work as anything. And the majority of jobs they're going to work are going to be on the streets, being vendors. They're going to work in the fields. They're willing to do any of that because they said, I want to make more than $5 a day, which is what they're making in their countries, if that.
Yeah.
And
it's the same thing here when people, the people from Mexico or whatever, they're taking our jobs in America. What jobs are these menial labor jobs that Americans don't want to do?
Yeah.
I've never seen an American go on a field.
Yeah, you ever see those videos of them in the field going, bah, bah, bah. They're just, these people are just, I'm like, I'm not seeing nobody doing that.
Well, they increased the vineyards in Northern California, started paying $15, $20 an hour because they couldn't hire illegals. No one took the jobs.
Right. Yeah.
No one went in the fields to do this.
In South Carolina, the fruit actually died on the vines when they did the same thing over there too as well.
Yeah.
And she was talking about most of these people coming from Honduras. I don't think a lot of people in the States, a lot of Trump supporters don't realize that. But in 2009, we supported a coup in Honduras over their elected leader, Manuel Zelaya, who was a president in 2009, and who was the Madam Secretary.
Oh, weird. Sounds like Obama and Secretary Clinton.
Are you bashing on Obama again,
you racist? I hate blacks and ladies.
Don't come down in here, you racist son of a bitch. Oh, my God. In 2011, they had a chance to get Manuel Zelaya back in power, and they overturned it again. Oh. And then 2017, our President Donald Trump, who campaigned as a non-interventionist, he didn't do the right thing as well. So all these people are fleeing Honduras and the treacherous lives that are there.
Exactly. And that's something that we don't like to hear, right? And the American public doesn't like to even look into. But that's the reality of the situation.
We're the good guys.
We are.
Yeah. We're
policing,
spreading democracy.
We're policing the world and spreading our freedom.
Right.
And a lot of things on the news also have a lot of men coming in and coming here to take the women and rape them. It's actually a lot of men coming with their wives or with their kids to support them. There was a woman that was with a young man that I interviewed, and they did not want to be seen on camera, but he was helping her. She left her 6 children at home because her husband was beating her and abusing her. And so she's one of the people that could qualify for asylum, because it's very difficult now to actually even qualify for asylum in the United States. So that's one of the things.
Can I do an imitation real quick of Donald Trump, what he has to say about that?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Something is going on. There are a lot of men in East Caravan. They're bad, bad people. Something is going on, and we need to stop. Go ahead. Sorry. I know it wasn't that good, but that something was going on. There's a lot of bad men in these things. They're sending us their rapists.
One of the other points I wanted to make, that these people are not thankful, that they're rude, that they expect handouts. Number one thing that everybody told me, I'm so thankful to be here. All I want is a job to work on, and that's
not
it.
Be shot at.
I don't want anything to do with the politics. And they still see America as a beacon of light. They were all telling me, like, I think in America, if you work hard, you can still get things done. And comparatively to where they're coming from, then yes, okay. Right. And even with everything that's happening, they're not even able to be aware of everything because they're too busy trying to survive and not die. So I think in a way, in our country right now, many people are trying to survive and not die. And that's why most of America doesn't even pay attention to what we're doing in the rest of the world, because they're working 3 jobs. Yeah. They don't have health care. Yeah. The rent is too high. There's fires, there's storms, there's everything happening and all at once. And people are just trying to make it and get by. Yeah. And I think war keeps us in that perpetual hamster wheel where we can't even look up to oppose it. And that's why there's not enough of a strong anti-war movement. But we need to stop and look up and oppose it.
Well, keeping everybody in poverty or working 2-3 jobs and barely paying their bills.
That's part of the master plan.
Yeah, you don't have time to go protest.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And doing this stuff, and we can speak about this, trying to be truth tellers or another source of media, it's hard. They got a stranglehold on us and stuff. Before this, I worked as a corporate restaurant manager, and I worked 55 hours a week. I couldn't do that and do this at the same time. So trying to do this, even the system is trying to even suppress the voices of the truth tellers out there trying to do it. It's an all-around machine at work. You said you saw it when you went across seas. We see it at home every day. And just to elaborate on Fiorella's comment, what she said was just so on the nose. I'm happy to be the pretty one on the Convo Couch while she's the smart, intelligent one giving out these points. Fam, continue, please.
Yeah, and just, you know how the left always likes to point out how they're very pro-LGBT, pro-people of color. Well, these are LGBT people of color. I actually went to this organization and location where they're housing the LGBTQ people who are coming in from the caravans, because those people are actually under attack from their own people, because they're coming from countries in Latin America that are very, very violent against transgendered, specifically transgendered men and women. So there are plenty of them that are hiding out there, and this is called Enclave Caracol is the organization. They're helping the LGBT community and the homeless. This organization came about in 2016 after the Haitian migration that happened. If you remember, when Trump took office, there was a huge migration of Haitian people that were being thrown. They couldn't go up to Canada. They couldn't go down south. And so there is now a decent Haitian population in Tijuana, because that's where they've found solace and they've found people that actually help them out. And so I met 2 young women who were escaping violence and beatings in their own countries, specifically because more than anything, they were transgendered. And they came in and they did an interview with me, and just hearing their stories, it was heartbreaking. And I'm going to do a special little video show with all of this later on. But they've attempted to kill themselves several times. They had marks on their hand that, you noticed that they had a bracelet over it, and then eventually they revealed. And they were very scared to even be on camera. And that's another thing. They find solace in each other, but they have to be separated as well, even from the caravan. So not only are they dealing with the violence in their countries and crossing into here and dealing with the racism of Americans and Mexicans, but they're also dealing with the violence and hatred from their own people because of their sexuality. And if you're going to be a socially conscious liberal and talk about the LGBTQ community and people of color, you also have to remember the people that are suffering across the board of all genders and races and sexual orientations, like these 2 women who are part of that, and they are suffering because of the actions of our government and our pro-war imperialistic agenda, and that has to stop. And we can't just shut an eye to that and go around and promoting rainbows and pussy hats without actually engaging in legislation that actually helps people intersectionally.
Yeah. And we don't want to look at the big picture. Again, it's like what we were saying at the top of the show of just America doesn't want to know what's creating this. It's our CIA goes in, we blow up these democratically elected governments. We start all these wars that displace all these people. Oh, and by the way, we're buying up all of the world's cocaine. We're using all of the world's drugs.
Yeah.
And we're contributing on all these awful levels. And then what do we think is going to happen? We're creating all of these things. So when people on the left aren't vehemently anti-war, I'm just like, it's all connected. You want to stop. You want to put money on a Green New Deal. Stop spending all the money on war.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. The military is the number one contributor to climate change. I mean, it's like, it's unreal. There's so many things that what ending war would do on so many levels.
Well, I tell Trump supporters, if you really want to, you don't have to build a wall. You want to stop migration? You want to stop these people coming into your country? Well, let's stop funding the CIA to overturn these coups. And we just talked about this too, not too many shows ago. In Nicaragua, they're at it again. And there's two reasons why they do this. Number one, it's for corporate interest to go in there, the elites to own all the natural resources. I don't eat bananas anymore for what they did for the Chiquita bananas in Honduras. Literally, I don't, because it's a corporate one-crop takeover of the country. And number two, they don't want Americans to see social governments work.
Yeah,
that have health care for their people, that have education for their people. What Daniel Ortega has done his second time around, the Sandinistas, the real Sandinistas, what they've done in that country and turned around 1/3 of the indigenous people own land. They have the best gender equality than any country in Central America. And what are we doing in there? We're funding his opposition to the tune of $96 million starting in 2014 with Obama. And Donald Trump is letting it go and constantly going with it. Fam, we need to wrap this up. Do you want to talk about anything else while we have Mr. Handsome Elwood?
Yeah, just the fact that if any of you want to go across the border, I highly recommend it. Be safe. Go with someone you know. But when you see how these people are living and how thankful they are to even be in a place like Mexico, it's not the safest country. It has its issues, but they're even happy just being there because of all the shit we've done to cause these governments to be unsuccessful. I mean, the moment we see any kind of social or communist form of government succeeding, bam, we vilify them and then make us the saviors. And that is a very awful, narcissistic, manipulative viewpoint that we've allowed ourselves to believe that we are somehow the saviors when we are actually the villain. And I think it's a very hard thing for many people to accept. There is a cognitive dissonance, and this isn't saying that we don't love our country. I think the real patriots are the people that are standing up against what their government is doing and calling it out on behalf of all the people, because it doesn't just hurt them, it hurts us, because we can't pay for things, right? We don't have enough money for Medicare for all. We don't have enough money for free college because all of our money is going to bomb other people. And now these are the consequences that we are living with. Yeah. So,
well, it's like we said, 420 people own 83% of the resources in this world. It's ridiculous. Let's get to the lightning round. We're going to put you under the gun, Mr. Graham Elwood.
All right.
We got the clock. Let's get the clock going. Where's my clock? You don't have a clock? Yeah, he never has a clock on. Okay. We're doing the lightning round. Tick, 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 tick. Graham Elwood, what type of bread is your favorite to make a sandwich with?
Gluten-free.
You're number two.
What's your favorite pizza topping?
I would have to say, wow, there's these.
It's a lightning round.
There's
you know that. Lightning kind of.
There's hot peppers.
Hot peppers. Thank you. Cats or dogs, Graham Elwood?
Wow. I don't know. Probably dogs.
Okay.
Would you rather eat squid or octopus? Asking for a friend.
Probably neither.
On Christmas. Okay. Who's your favorite Republican?
Rand Paul.
What? Oh, name a green you liked running in California in the last election.
Kenneth Mejia.
Kenneth Mejia. Okay.
And California's 34th.
Biggest protest you've attended?
Wow.
I think next time we have to define what lightning is before Graham Elwood comes on the show.
I like a slow lightning,
It's
not like a quick one. Like a, You know, like when you hear the storm way off in the distance.
Yeah, you're the thunder that comes like 10 minutes later.
Yeah, you see a little flash. It's not that scary.
Last question. Give it to Graham Elwood.
Who is the prettiest co-host on the Convo Couch? Would you stop asking this question? We know they're going to pick you. Stop.
I gotta go.
Fiorella.
Yeah.
I knew you would pick her for this one. That's why I did it, because I wanted to build my fam's confidence. Graham Elwood, we want to thank you for coming on the Convo Couch.
Thank you very much. Your viewpoints are very much appreciated, and thank you for doing what you do and for speaking truth.
Same to you guys. Thanks for doing this.
Tell the pretty people at home where they can find you.
If you go to grahamelwood.com, you can get my YouTube and podcast, The Political Vigilante. It's available on YouTube and Daily Motion, and the audio version is available on iTunes. You can support my patreon.com/GrahamElwood. Support independent media. We without it, we can't afford to do all this stuff. The stuff costs money. And all my social media, Twitter, Instagram, all that, just go to grahamelwood.com. My tour dates, the Progressive Comedy Tour. Ron Placone and I are doing shows in Florida in January.
Nice.
And we're going to be going once a month to cool places. The Progressive Comedy Tour, it's not just a comedy show, it's activism and jokes all worked together. So go to grahamelwood.com.
Well, we love you, Graham Elwood. Thanks again for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
Why don't you say combo out, because I don't want to say it.
Combo out, guys. Thanks for watching.
Hey, if you liked our video and want to support independent media, please like, share, and subscribe below.
Yeah, we have a Facebook, a Twitter, a YouTube, and coming soon, fam, we're going to be on Roku.
Take it easy, fam. And if you have any change to spare, please subscribe to our Patreon below to keep us going.
Yes, anything would help with that.
Thanks again for watching. Convo out.